Welcome back, everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review Podcast. Just want to thank all our fans and listeners. I really appreciate all support. Before we get into tonight's film review, I just want to give a quick shout out to our website, don'tgoouthere.com. We've got all of our episodes, our interviews, our blog. We got a store, all of our celebrity shout outs, all the good stuff. We also have all of our social media links. We're on, we try and provide content on every platform we can. We have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Go follow us or like us, subscribe to us, all the good stuff on there. Interact with us. We love answering questions from y'all or hearing feedback. So yeah, go follow us on social media. And one last thing before we get in the film review, we have a Patreon. We call it Blood Donors. We have, the traditional monthly reoccurring, and we'd provide like early content. And I'll also, me and Bryan, we like to do giveaways on there, which I may have done a little giveaway today through, big fan of the show, Shan. She's got some new tumblers out. Go check her Etsy page out. And we have the one-time donors if you want to, just make a one-time donation. Maybe you want us to review a movie that you really love. We have that tier. And we also have, if you want to come on the show one day, you can do that. Just check out our blood donors on our website. All right, tonight is Brother Bryan's pick. It's his film review for the night. Bryan, you want to go ahead and announce it for us?
Yeah, 1984's Gremlins. This is one of those movies that I 100% admit that the nostalgia plays a huge part in with me, as well as the atmosphere, which triggers that. Obviously, I grew up on this movie. I don't know the first time that I saw it, but it came out the year after I was born. In that ridiculous 1984 that Mike kind of talked about last year or last week. It's definitely a quote unquote Christmas movie that I try to watch every year. Joe Dante, who I'm honestly not a fan of, directed this. Burton actually almost directed this, and part of me wishes that he had. But Dante had just come off The Howling, who's Dee Wallace is in that, and who we may have some news on soon. I don't want to jinx that, by the way, but I'll just leave that right there. But Dee Wallace, yeah, she was in The Howling with him, and Spielberg actually produced this, who we were just talking about off air. Which, I mean, you can see his stamp all over this, and the script is a Chris Columbus classic. Columbus did Home Alone, Goonies, Harry Potter. I mean, if you don't know Chris Columbus's script, I'm sorry for you. Now Columbus's early script, before Spielberg got a hold of this, in my opinion, was much more violent. Your mother's head was cut off. Gizmo turns into Stripe. Gremlins eat the dog. And while, that would have made this more of a horror movie, it definitely, I think, would have missed on that charm that I think comes with Home Alone, with Goonies, with E.T., hell, Back to the Future. Although there's Back to the Future stamp all over this movie. But it makes me feel those nostalgic, and in this case, Christmas vibes. You know what I mean with that, I think. So anyway, I think this has a fantastic cast, and yes, there are some problems, like it's way too long, and you feel that runtime. But I think that I think this one definitely holds up as a classic all the way around. Now, lastly, Dante and a lot of the cast came back for Gremlins 2, and I hate that movie. It's basically like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, where they just kind of went completely crazy and spend the whole time actually making fun of this one. Yeah, so don't watch Gremlins 2, in my opinion. Some people like it. I can't stand it. But anyway, that's all I had. Go ahead, Mike.
Don't listen to Bryan. You should absolutely watch Gremlins 2, but let's save that till we do Gremlins 2. Oh, we probably won't do Gremlins 2, so watch Gremlins 2. Bad Batch. Hilarious. Anyway, all right, so Gremlins. We kind of talked about this pre-show. I probably had not seen this film in maybe 10, 15 years. This is maybe the third time I've watched it. As many of you know, if you've listened to the show the last few years, I'm a big Christmas fan. I love Christmas, everything about the season, big. If you can't see the lights that I put in the guest room here to make this room festive, that, if you're watching on video, obviously if you're listening on podcast, you can't see shit. But but my room is now festive. So I love Christmas, and I don't normally like Christmas and horror together. I don't think the two genres mesh super well. There's some ones that do it right, which, by the way, for the 5th week in a row, you should go listen to Silent Night, Deadly Night and watch Silent Night, Deadly Night because it is a really good little Christmas slasher. And you can check that out at
don'tgoothere.com.
Thank you, buddy. So Gremlins. I don't hate this movie. It's a little okay. I don't have nostalgia for the 80s like a lot of people do. I didn't grow up in the 80s. I was born in 1992. And so I don't have a ton of nostalgia pool. So I'm kind of, again, it's been a decade probably since I've seen it. So I'm kind of viewing it again through fresh eyes. And it's not bad. There's a lot of good here. There's some charm that the 80s kind of cheese is there. And I like some of that. This movie is entirely too long. Big shocker coming out of me, I know. But this movie, you feel
it's true this time, though, Mike. It's true.
It's true most of the time, if I say. But anyway, you feel the hour and 45 minutes in this film, no doubt. Now, animatronics, they look great. I think all the Gremlins look super awesome. They hold up. I have no issue. Gizmo's adorable. What a cool, little thing. That if that were a real pet, that'd be awesome. I think the acting is fine. I think the movie is shot really well, especially the turning point once it becomes a little more horror slanted. There's some really good shots there. And I think that those hold up over time. But this movie's almost two movies. It's a little bit of a Beethoven-esque kind of comedy-like thing, and then you get the horror aspect, which I think is really good. Now, we're going to get into it in more detail. There's 2 to 3 scenes in this movie that go on a little too long for me. And I think those are kind of glaringly obvious of what those are, but let's save it till we get there. But again, I don't hate the movie. I kind of messed with Bryan a couple days in a row where I was going to shit on this movie. There are some things that I don't like. I do think that it's too long. I think some of the Gremlins stuff is way overdone. I would have liked them to be a little scarier, but I don't think that was the intention of this particular script. Now, the script Bryan was talking about would have liked to see a little more violent, a little more dark, a little more chaotic. I would have enjoyed that. But yeah, I like the movie enough. I'm excited to talk about it, but I got asked by a friend of mine in my personal life, do I consider this a Christmas movie? Well, obviously, it's a Christmas movie. It's a comedy horror Christmas movie. And to me, scarier than, say, Beetlejuice and Ghostbusters, which we've covered, in certain parts. So, yeah, I think it fits well, and I'm excited to talk about it.
All right, I'll go real quick. Like Mike, I haven't seen this movie in many, many years, probably over 20 years. I watched it twice. I like to get a little refresher if I haven't seen it or haven't seen it in a long time. Honestly, my first watch thought it was pretty damn boring. But on my second rewatch, do my notes, I enjoyed it a little bit more just because I knew what I was getting myself into again. It's an okay movie to me personally. I understand Bryan has the nostalgia for the movie. I don't. I didn't grow up on it really. I saw it when I was younger, but it didn't stick with me like Jason Lives or anything like that did.
Right.
So I just think the movie is okay. It's worth a watch. Will I ever rewatch it again? Not unless somebody asks me to, just being honest. But I think the movie's okay. A lot of stuff just kind of annoyed me. I just didn't understand the Gremlins. What are the purpose of the Gremlins? I don't understand. I kind of wish it would have been more horror-ish, but then it wouldn't have the charm. Like they've mentioned, it wouldn't have the charm because I don't understand. 1 minute these Gremlins are killing people, but they also know how to drive snow plows, play cards. They know how to drink alcohol. They smoke cigarettes. They watch movies. They destroy movies. They go swimming. I just don't. It just confuses me. But anywho, I'll stop ranting. I think the movie's okay. I joked with Bryan that it's going to be another Cloverfield. It's not going to be like Cloverfield.
No, it's not going to be that. No, I tell you right now, I would watch Gremlins over Cloverfield.
Oh, yeah, I would too.
And I told you, I'm here for the fans. I'm here for the fans. I'm perfectly fine. I'm here. The people's champ. The people's champ.
He's here for him and his family. Oh, sorry, wrong show.
Y'all go follow Bryan on OnlyFans. Just kidding. All right, any more opening thoughts before we jump into the scene by scene?
The
Hey, I
only
have a.
thing I go ahead,
Oh
go
no,
ahead,
go
Mike.
ahead. No, Brian, mine's a
The
joke.
only
So go
thing,
ahead.
the only thing I was going to say is I wanted to bring up how cool it is because we did talk about it in Jaws, but this movie and Temple of Doom, Indiana Jones Temple of Doom, and Jaws were apparently the three movies that encouraged the MPAA to come out with the PG-13 rating. So, like, really, technically, this should be rated PG-13 without a
Well,
doubt. And
it's got some GDs. It's got
yeah,
some language, some suggestive comments. To be polite, which I'm trying to hold my tongue, which is very fucking unusual for me on this show.
All right, let's jump into scene by scene.
Let's do it.
The film starts with Randall. He's narrating the story. He's in Chinatown trying to sell some of his inventions, and he's also looking for his son's present. He goes into, I just said it's a wise man's shop. His grandson tells him to look around. He likes the artifacts in the store and now shows off his bathroom buddy. He now tries to convince us of scenarios we need this bathroom buddy. Randall, that's what he goes by. He hears some animal like noises and finds the Mogwai. Rand thinks the Mogwai is incredible and wants it for his son and offers him $200. The grandfather says it's not for sale. It has too much responsibility. He walks off and the grandson tells Rand to wait outside. He brings it to him outside and says he needs the money, like him and his family need the money. He now tells him the rules. No light, especially sunlight, it'll kill him. No water, and never feed him after midnight, no matter what. Now we get aerial shots of the town in title card. It's snowy and beautiful. Opening credits roll. We see kids playing in the snow and they, board the school bus. The sheriff walks into Pete, who's dressed as a Christmas tree, and he tries to schmooze a free one for the station. Now we see Billy, whose car won't crank up. He goes to the back of the car and it's like the engine smokes him out. Mr. Futterman criticizes foreign cars and asks if he needs a jump. Billy says he's got to get to work and he takes off walking with Barney, his dog. Billy walks into the bank and gets to his teller station. He hides his dog under the desk. He is not prepared for work. Kate walks up to him to sign a petition. Miss Deagle is a bitch to a mother who asks for more time to pay her back. Miss Deagle now walks into the bank now with a snowman head and skips everyone in line. She tells Billy his dog broke the snowman. She doesn't want money. She wants his dog. She wants to take him to the kennel to put him down. She now says she'll catch the beast herself and brutally kill it. Barney jumps up, barking at her, breaking the snowman head. She says she has a weak heart, and his boss says this isn't a pet store. Miss Deagle complains of a weak heart again, and they walk her out. Gerald tells Billy he almost was going to be in the unemployment line. He says he's going to be the president in this place and he's going to be the president of the bank in 2 years. He tells Billy the world's changing and he needs to be tough. Kate is their waitress, and Gerald tries to get Kate to go on a date with him, but she curves his ass, and you love to see that. Billy walks inside and helps his mom prepare dinner. He used his dad's crappy egg cracking machine, but he has to go to the sink to do it. He asks his mom if anything's wrong. She begins to tell him, but Dad walks in. He hands Billy a present, and he says he has to open it now. He jokes, saying it's a new car. Billy unwraps the present as Mom dims the light. Billy opens the box, and the Mogwai leaps up, jump scaring them a little bit. Billy holds it, calling it cute. Dad says his name is Gizmo. Mom takes a picture, scaring Gizmo with a flash. He now tells Billy the rules of the Mogwai. Billy is upstairs now playing notes on a keyboard as Gizmo sings along. He puts a Santa hat on it and then hits him in the face with a light reflection with a mirror. Gizmo yells, "Bright light," as they go in the bathroom. Billy puts a bandage on Gizmo's head now. Billy, Gizmo, and Barney go to sleep. Next morning, Billy tries to make orange juice with another crappy invention. It explodes and makes a mess. Pete walks in with their Christmas tree. Pete asks what happened in here about the mess. Then he says the obvious, just buy orange juice in the carton. All right, go ahead, Brian's first two scenes I got.
And I know this sounds probably the opposite of what you would expect, but I think I like the first half of this movie a lot more than I do the second half. I don't know, I think that's the one that's the half that plays the nostalgia to me the most. But um, opening up with Hoyt Axton, who actually was a country singer, which I'm sure one of Dustin's favorites in his country library. But he apparently ad libbed nearly every bit of his lines. And I think that's basically how Bill Murray works. You just kind of give him the general idea, and he'll handle it.
To the
he,
dismay of all of his Caddyshack
oh yeah,
cast members.
everybody. But that's another story.
Yes.
Um, but he's a perfect salesman, and I've seen a ton of old westerns, and that's exactly how I think that he acts. He acts like he should be an old western movie. But this opening with his narration wasn't actually in the original shooting script, and while this opening scene is chalked up with like little Easter eggs, like a wrecked car being an AMC Gremlin, and hell, this entire movie is chock full of Easter eggs. But you'll notice the sets, like in this scene, especially of the town, they look really like old cheap sets, and apparently that was a Dante choice. He apparently saw this movie as Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds meets It's a Wonderful Life, and wanted the sets to look like that to capture the nostalgia. So that's on purpose.
Yeah.
It's not a choice that I'm a fan of personally, but I get it because it's on purpose. Um, Shout out to Key Luke, Mr. Wing. I think he would have been a perfect Shang Tsung from Mortal Kombat. Just throwing that out there too. But little fun fact: he actually started out his career designing movie posters and
Ah.
passed away. Passed away though, unfortunately, in 1991, the release of Star Trek Six. Just another little fun fact. But after his work on his on Gremlins 2, apparently is when he passed away. But classic character for sure. And like we've said a ton of times on the show, paranormal activity, I think was definitely one of them that I know we brought it up on. But Spielberg made a bunch of changes to this film as well. I'll get in basically making Gizmo cute like he is, and other stuff I'll get into later that I've got notes on. But they got Howie Mandel to voice
Yeah. Really weird.
Gizmo at Frank Welker's request. But let me get into these rules for just a second. Like, obviously, the midnight one has been made fun of. It gets made fun of in Gremlins 2 as well, because I mean, like, really isn't, if you think about it, isn't really everything after midnight. I mean, but it's something that, I mean, you don't really ever even think of, especially when you're a kid. You're just like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. Don't feed them after midnight. But when you think about it as an adult, you're like, wait, what the fuck? And the light one makes real world sense, because now Dante and Amblin Studios didn't have to like navigate the budget for the expensive animatronics that much, and so they kept them in the dark, because hiding the special effects some. So that makes real world sense. The hell, Dante did the same thing with the Howling as well. And uh, lastly, my most memorable shot of this movie is that opening on Kingston Falls, which by the way, that's the exact set from Back to the Future. They were both shot on the Universal backlot, which is pretty well known. But this, coupled with that "Baby Come Home" from Darlene Lewis, the love song, like our Darling Love song, just sets that Christmas atmosphere to me. Like, and I think that's what hits with me. I mean, like, and there's, like I said, there's Easter eggs all over this one too, with the Indiana Jones tribute billboard, to the E.T. and Close Encounters Spielberg references on the movie marquee. But this is the shot that gives me that shot of Christmas nostalgia, like I was talking about. Now, for the first time, I will say about half the music I like. Half of it I think is a little bit corny, almost like Dennis the Menace vibes, almost to me. Um, and here, the introduction of basically Scrooge and Mrs. Deagle, I wasn't really a fan of the music that was playing then either, but the music when Billy gets Gizmo is perfect. And I think that that's a very well shot scene as well. And speaking of shot, that shot of Pete dressed as the tree reminded me of Midsummer, and this is a much better movie. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh man. Uh okay. So I'm a sucker, and this is just I think that's why I like the show How I Met Your Mother and some
Oh, I
other
love
movies.
that.
I'm a fan of a movie that starts out with a narrator. And so now I'm not a fan of this whole movie, but I like that aspect to the film. And so, we get the narration there from Hoyt Axton, which you mentioned. Um, I'll just say right off the top, and it gets even worse as it goes. He may be one of the worst dads in film history. He's terrible. not only does he barely pay attention to anything going on, he's a con man when it comes to selling his inventions, which, by the way, your bathroom buddy sucks, pal. Okay? That's not something I would buy ever. All right? That's a lot of shit in one big ass. That looked like one of those old cell phones from like 97 that they used in American Psycho, the travel buddy. I mean, I get the concept, but I feel like just put everything in a little bag and you'll be fine. But anyway, so he's a con man and he's not a super great dad. And again, so he goes. I like the story here. You know, Brian, you mentioned liking the first half of the movie a little bit better. I do like how we get to Mogwai. Like, I like all of that. But again, it's not so. Again, we're doing one of these kind of borderline horror, not horror movies. And so I almost forgot because it had been so long what the vibe of the movie is. And we're, 15, 20 minutes in, and I'm kind of like, are we going to get to like the Gremlins tearing shit up yet or what, man? Because it's just like a family fun comedy thing going on here. And again, I don't hate that. I just wasn't expecting it off the top. So anyway, I think this has a really strong cast though. Brian, you kind of mentioned a lot of the names. Zach Galligan as Billy, I think is good. Corey it's a really fun, like, oh, that person cast. So yeah, Corey Feldman, Dick Miller, who's in a lot of stuff. He plays Murray. Howie Mandela's Gizmo, which you mentioned. Here's a fun one. Judge Reinhold, obviously, Wet Hot American Summer, but he's also the Santa Claus, which this time of year is very popular and plays a million times, and it's one of my favorite movies. He's Neil the Sweater Asshole. So, but here's
how about Frances McCain, though, as Lynn Peltzer? She was in Stand By Me, Back to the Future, and Mrs. Riley in Scream.
Okay, that's all. Okay. Polly Holiday, plays Miss Deagle, was in this movie. She's in The Parent Trap as the camp counselor, the Lindsay Lohan one. She's in Mrs. Doubtfire. There's one more, and it doesn't matter. She's in those, and those are the ones. As soon as I saw her face, I'm like, oh yeah, camp counselor lady from The Parent Trap. So I had a feeling that's who that was. But,
she was in Mrs. Doubtfire. You're right, and Chris Columbus wrote that script, I think.
Oh well, so almost like a common theme there. But yeah, so I like the backstory of how we get to the Gremlins. I kind of disagree with Nico a little bit. Now, I agree with him on them not quite knowing what they are, what purpose they serve, what they're here for. Like, I don't really get all of that, but I like the idea of him almost being a Christmas gift and this cute little fuzzy thing, and we don't quite know what it is, but it sings, so that's kind of fun. Or whatever you call that. It kind of sings like a bird sings. So yeah, man, there's again, this first half of the movie, I didn't take what I would call a ton of notes just because it's just like more of a now, I will say, I know that Murray is supposed to be, I don't know what he's supposed to be, but he's the town drunk to me. My man gets on a snowplow and rides around. I don't know if he's got a fifth with him or what, but I think the actor plays that character perfect. And it's so then you got this kind of side relationship here with Billy and Kate, and I kind of like it because Kate's not your stereotypical like 80s oh my gosh like female character. She's she's very strong.
Yeah, I agree.
And kind of goes back at Billy. She's not just giving in to every little thing he says. She's not quote unquote boy crazy. Like, I kind of like her character a lot. I think it develops really nicely, and she ends up helping to save the day and kick ass. So good for her. Now she makes a really dumb decision later in the film that I have to point out. But outside of that, yeah, that's pretty much it. I like it. By the way, again, back to the dad, just being sorry as hell. Okay, not only is he bad businessman, bad dad. This motherfucker sucks at inventing stuff. This orange juice machine is a piece of shit. You know how easy it is to squeeze an orange juice fresh? You just put like a little, you could do it with a cup, like a glass cup. You cut the orange in half, and you just ring it around the cup, and the orange juice falls out into another cup. Anyway, this guy sucks. But yeah, man, that's all I had. I have more detailed notes at about the 53-minute mark when these motherfuckers are here.
Yeah. Well, hey, Nico, like you were talking about with a little bit more backstory of it, I think the novelization of this movie actually gives you a lot of Gizmo and the Gremlins kind of backstory and the Mogwai's backstory. But I don't. I was thinking about that. As I was taking notes on this. I almost am glad that I don't get that backstory, because to me, it's just, I like how it's just kind of left up for interpretation a little bit. And to me, I think that's a good thing. I get though how it could be like, I don't know what the hell's going on. Like, I get that, but I almost kind of like the whole mysterious type aspect to it a little bit too.
Oh, organic Mike over there squeezing his own orange juice. All right, that's cool.
I'm
Gizmo is
not saying it's the most effective way. I'm just saying this invention sucks.
I'm calling you organic Mike from now on.
Organic Mike.
We are buying Florida's Natural because it is made in my hometown. Let's do this.
And my man's just over there trying to make a living inventing stuff, and Mike's over there just putting him down. He's just trying his best.
Hey,
just trying to grind out here on these streets. It's rough out here on these streets.
He can grind all he wants. One of my favorite quotes, I have a little advice for him. The world needs plenty of bartenders. Name that movie.
I have no idea.
I don't know.
All right, anywho.
Is it a Vince Vaughn movie?
Yeah, it's the Psycho remake, which we'll hear in February on don'tgooutthere.com.
Is it really? I was a guess.
All right, let's get skirt back on track. Gizmo is watching TV now, pretending to be a race car driver. Billy takes Pete upstairs and shows him the Mogwai. He asks where he can get one of those. Pete accidentally pours water on Gizmo and it freaks out. Several little Mogwai shoots off his body. Now Billy has a whole litter of them. Stripe is a mean little Mogwai. Gizmo doesn't look thrilled about the babies. Billy goes out to the garage to find his dad, who's working on his bathroom buddy trying to iron out the kinks, and explains another scenario you need it. Billy shoots toothpaste all over him. He now tells him about the new Mogwais. Randall says every kid will want one of these as a pet, and they all play around the living room. Billy sleeps with Gizmo beside him, and we see Billy get up from bed when he hears a noise. We see Barney the dog hung up outside in a string of Christmas lights. Rand says he knows for sure he locked the door. Billy thinks it was Miss Deagle. Mom tries to whip up some coffee, but another invention that doesn't work well. The coffee looks like crap. Billy takes the Mogwai to school for the science teacher to check out. He drops a drip of water on it, and it has an offspring. Teacher asks to keep it and run tests on him. Billy walks past the restaurant as Kate kicks Miss Futterman out. Futterman climbs into his plow and blames Gremlins. Foreigners plant them in the cars. Kate doesn't think he should drive home. He's too drunk. We see carolers as Billy and Kate pass a house. Kate says Futterman's been like that since he lost his job. He says a lot of people get depressed around Christmas. Some people open presents. Some open their wrists, she says. She tells Billy she doesn't celebrate Christmas. She snaps on him a little, and he apologizes. She says she's cranky and tired. He now asks when she's off work and if they could go on a date. She'd love to, she says. Professor Roy now takes a blood sample from the Mogwai. Billy is doing some homework in bed, and the litter of Mogwai are starving. He sees it's not past midnight yet and goes to get them food. He brings them some chicken, and they go to town on it. He hands Gizmo a piece, who doesn't want any. We see the caged Mogwai at school staring at Roy's sandwich. Roy leaves, and the Mogwai pulls the sandwich to himself and eats it. Billy lays down and passes out. The next morning, Gizmo says, "Uh-oh." Billy calls Mom upstairs, and we see these xenomorph-looking pods on the ground. It's the Mogwai. Yes. She asks if he broke a rule. He now realizes his alarm clock's wire has been chewed through. All right, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, there's a few more casting things that Mike touched on that I wanted to kind of hit on a little bit too in that first group of scenes, but I'm gonna hit on here because I think there's a lot of room in this group of scenes to do that with. But Corey Feldman, like, this is like what the third movie that we've done with him. I mean, Lost Boys, Friday 4, now this, but right here in this like 1984 like little section here, this dude was on fire. he was almost in E.T. as well, but Spielberg dropped his character and basically moved it to this one because he was going to play the best friend of Elliot, which is the same thing he does here. But he got cast in Goonies because of this. I mean, this movie comes out the same year as Friday 4, which I know Mike's going to touch on, I think, a little bit later. But after this, he literally has a big movie coming out every single year after this through the 80s. It's insane. Stand By Me, Lost Boys, License to Drive, Ninja Turtles. It's like bam, 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 bam. It's crazy. And, Mike touched on him some earlier a minute ago, but Judge Reinhold. Like
Yeah.
I love Judge Reinhold. He's in some of my favorite movies too. And you brought up Santa Claus, but he's Billy fucking Rosewood in Beverly Hills Cop. I mean, he's in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Stripes, which I love fucking Stripes. But
God, I forgot he's in Stripes. That's awesome.
yeah, but I mean, there's
Yeah.
always been something a little bit like fucked up with his character to me in this one, and it felt like off because you're just like, what the fuck happened to him? Like it's just, but now it makes sense knowing now that most of his scenes were actually cut. Like there was basically scenes like a whole side plot of him basically losing his mind throughout this movie. Which I mean, cut some of this other shit that's in here and leave that in because like that's Judge Reinhold. Like I want to see that performance of him kind of slipping into madness. I think that would be awesome. And Phoebe Cates, I love her. I mean, she was in Fast Times at Ridgemont High as well. Which, by the way, like that movie, that movie is right up there with Animal House. And you brought up Caddyshack earlier too. That I watched those way too early of an age. Like I should not have been watching those movies.
It's me with American Pie, man. Saw it when I was 7 years old. Let's ride.
But she has a nude scene in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and apparently Dante and Spielberg had to like fight the studio to get her in this because the studio execs said that they thought that she wasn't wholesome enough. But I mean, so like just what a different time, right? Like it's crazy. But I love her character in this. And like Mike said, like they try to flush her out some. She's not just some 80s damsel in distress, but like with her like weirdly timed speech later on, like I wish that they would have given her a little bit more to do than they did in this, especially at the end. And I'll get into that a little bit more whenever we get there. But I think that they did miss a little bit with her character. And I know I talked shit about the music before, but the Gremlins main theme, like when it plays here with the science teacher, I love it. I think that's absolutely legendary theme to me. And lastly, I mean, I just think that this set of scenes progresses the plot, but like I said a minute ago, like there's a lot of filler here. I mean, also, come the fuck on. Like you need to put some fucking saran wrap or aluminum foil on that chicken in the refrigerator. Like, what are we? This are we savages here? What is this? Go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I have wrote down here, Brian, is filler. This set of scenes is a lot of just, and I'm okay with fleshing, especially the relationship between Billy and Kate, which I touched on, especially, kind of fleshing some of that out. And that, that kind of remains throughout the whole movie. So I'm okay with them doing that here. But there's a lot of stuff with, God, I keep wanting to call the damn thing Mowgli because it's just the Jungle Book. But anyway, you know what? Fuck it. His new name is Mowgli. So there's a lot of, I'm just kidding.
I'm not gonna call that man Mowgli.
But so there's just a lot of filler with Mowgli here. And I'm gonna do it to piss you off. So and Billy takes Pete upstairs, and it's fun to see him. It's fun to see him and Pete, kind of interact. I like Corey Feldman, especially young Corey Feldman. You get him kind of in his prime here. We've covered the final chapter on this show. You mentioned all the stuff that we've done with Corey Feldman, which, by the way, which we're gonna get to at the end. Final chapter, same year as this movie, Gremlins. So right around the same time that he's in Gremlins, he's my man Tommy Jarvis. So
yeah,
fun little fact there. Same calendar year. A lot going on for my man Corey Feldman, but there is just so much kind of not yeah, it moves the plot along, Brian, but I don't think it's anything that's like super substantial. You know, he takes him to the teacher and all this other stuff, and I just now I'll say we finally get a little bit of interesting here with what water does because you know they set the rules up earlier. You know, the don't get it wet, midnight, daylight, don't you know all that stuff. Which, by the way, you made fun of. They definitely make fun of all that in Gremlins 2, which I like the self awareness of that because the midnight rule is fucking stupid. Because again, there's everything's after midnight. I can't hammer that home enough. And it's also always midnight, probably somewhere in the world, which our brother Dustin sent in his notes of this. I want to give him credit. He makes a good point. It's probably midnight somewhere else. So if it's not where you are, it's dark somewhere else too. But I like that they kind of set that up, and then we get to see what happens when water comes into play. We get all these new gremlins, and I think, man, I hate that they turn into these ugly ass beer drinking, chain smoking things because they're all so cute right here. It's like, damn it, man. But yeah, I just again don't have a whole lot here. I do like the development of their relationship. I love that they've decided to flesh out that character of Kate. I think that helps. But like you mentioned, Brian, they give her a speech later on, and then we just don't hear about that again. It's a very serious scene, which we're going to get to in a couple scenes. But like, man, I just felt like there was a little bit more there. But yeah, not a whole lot, man. Again, I don't know if you've noticed a theme, but I have a really hard time taking notes on movies that are not horror. like truthfully, I like we did Beetlejuice. Now that was a little bit easier, but some of the other borderline things we've done where it's just more kind of narrative driven. I've had a hard time taking notes on They Live, Ghostbusters because there aren't those normal stereotypical horror aspects to it. So horror comedy month was struggling. Boy was struggling.
Oh yeah. All right, back at school, we see the cage is full of the cocoon. Lynn is at home, that's the mom, and she answers the phone. It's Randall. He's at an inventors convention. We now see the cocoons upstairs shaking around. Miss Deagle is back at the bank, skipping everyone in line again. She threatens to kill the dog slowly again. Back to Roy, and we see the cocoon hatch. All the cocoons hatch back at Billy's house now. The box the cocoon is in Roy's classroom falls to the ground. The bell rings and he dismisses class. Roy looks around his classroom now and sees the cocoon is hatched. Roy calls Billy and says, it's hatched. I just said hatched a bunch of times. He takes off from work to go see. Gizmo sees all the other cocoons. Roy sweet talks the gremlin, saying he got it a candy bar, knowing it would be hungry. The projector turns back on as we hear something running. He reaches under his desk, offering it the candy bar. He wants to see it. The gremlin starts to eat the candy bar, and then we hear Roy scream as he's bitten. Billy makes it to the classroom and finds his body on the ground with a needle in his butt. Billy goes to grab the phone, but the gremlin grabs his hand. Billy approaches it and sees it has broken into the vent and run away. Billy goes to the nurse's office to wrap his cut, but then the gremlin jumps out of a cabinet at him, scaring him. Then he runs back into the vents. Lynn, back at home, hears a commotion. The gremlins are playing darts, sticking Gizmo to the dartboard. Lynn grabs a knife and heads upstairs. She makes it up and sees the wreck. The phone rings and it's Billy telling her to get out of the house as one of the gremlins destroy the phone lines. Now we hear carols playing in the house. She goes back downstairs and Billy runs to the house. She cuts the record player off and a glass object, I'm guessing it's maybe a dish or something, is thrown at her. She goes in the kitchen and sees them eating her gingerbread men. She turns the mixer on, killing one of the gremlin. Another gremlin throws dishes at her. She grabs a shield and stabs the other gremlin to death. She now sprays the gremlin with like cooking oil and cooks it in the microwave, causing it to explode. Lynn goes into the living room now and sees the stocking moving over the fireplace. She knocks it over and realizes it's just a toy robot. The tree behind her shakes and falls on her. A gremlin is attacking her now as she stabs at it. Billy makes it home as she's being strangled, and he grabs a sword off the wall, knocking it into the fireplace. The last gremlin, Stripe, bursts out of the window, running away. All right, go ahead, Brian.
So this convention scene is chock full of Easter eggs as well. I mean, we get Spielberg and composer Jerry Goldsmith with a cameo, and in the background we get a prop from a little known fun fact. that props from one of my favorite movies of all time, 1960s black and white. I just lost Nico. The Time Machine. I like the remake a lot too, but it's cool because if you focus in on that time machine in the background, whenever it flips to the mom and then cuts back, it disappears, like, kind of like it went back in time or something, and
Only
all the
time
people are
machine I
back.
recognize is Hot Tub, brother. Oh, just kidding. I'm
Wow,
kidding.
you don't
I've
even
seen Time
recognize
Machine.
the
I've seen
DeLorean.
Time Machine. I've seen. Huh?
The Back to the Future, the DeLorean. You don't even recognize that time machine?
Huh?
Oh, wow.
I just wanted to piss you off. Of course I know. Man, you never listened to an episode of my other show that I had for a little bit there because I always talked about hopping in the DeLorean and going back in time. Anyway.
I did actually listen to that. Anyway, great shot, I think, of the gremlins hatching, like Nico touched on, obviously very inspired by Alien. But now that we get Grown Up, Stripe and company, it kind of seems like a good time to throw in the fact that Frank Welker, fucking Megatron himself, voices Stripe, which I think, funny enough, that's the second time that I know that I've brought him up on the show, because it was he was in Anaconda doing some sound work there too, the last time that I did. But not just him. Michael Winslow, the dude from Police Academy that does all those. I can't do shit, but those special effects, those sound effects or whatever. He does some of the Gremlin voice work as well. So and shout out to Chris Wallace and his special effects team. In my opinion, Mike brought that up earlier. Still holds up, and to know the problems and the budget and keeping them in the dark and everything because of the budget, the fact that they look as good as they even do, to me, is a great feat. And honestly, like the part in the classroom, I think that it's more effective not seeing the gremlin. So, and at this point, hiding their grown up appearance, I think that's effective. I liked that. Another little fun fact: Chris Wallace actually suggested that they use puppets instead of the stop motion idea. And so, like, as a compromise, the studio suggested a spider monkey in a suit, which was tested at director Joe Dante's office. The animal apparently went fucking crazy, tore the office apart, took a shit everywhere. Apparently, Dante screamed at the trainer to get the animal the fuck out of there. Like, to me, it's just, I'm picturing this and it's hilarious. But then apparently after he left, Wallace just kind of looked at Dante and was like, "So puppets?" I don't know. Anyway, that made me laugh. Also, good God, man! Like, I didn't mention it, when he wrapped Gizmo's head like a fucking mummy in the first group of scenes. But I will hear in this group of scenes, like when he's in the doctor's office and his hand is scratched or whatever, like it's not even bleeding, but he wraps that thing like he's a damn athletic trainer. And like the man needs to like relax on the wound dressing, I think, just a little
My
bit.
man's getting ready to go into the octagon.
He is, man, that dude, he
Muay
wraps
Thai.
everything. Like, it's crazy. But I will say, I do like a lot of the tension that's built up in this group of scenes with the school. Like I said here, and with Mrs. Peltzer, the attack on her, I think, is great. And some seriously awesome fucking kills here, like the gremlin in the blender. Spoiler alert, my favorite kill in the movie. But the one in the microwave, I mean, let's go, come on. Old Stella Baines got some serious moves here. That's her character in Back to the Future, Nico. But it did. I think that she, as a character, does better than pretty much anyone else in this movie fighting these things. She takes out like 3 or 4 of them. And lastly, like the 2 swords hanging on Peltzer's wall. A little fun fact here: they're actually the same props used in like the big battle between Buffy, my girl Sarah Michelle Gellar, and sorry, Freddie Prinze, that's my girl. She was my girl first, and Angel, David Boreanaz, in the season 2 finale of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So just a fun little tidbit there as well.
Fun fact: I've seen Back to the Future before.
Yes, you have now. You have seen Back to the Future before. You have. I would not
fact, I don't hate black and white movies. I just watched The Lighthouse, and it was incredible.
Oh, okay.
That's a little different. That's a little different, Nico.
I think I lost you on the 1960s black and white part of that.
There you go.
Lighthouse is way better than Psycho, but we'll talk about that another day.
Oh,
Go ahead, Mike.
God damn. Jesus Christ. Oh, you completely just threw me off. Anyway, okay.
Tell me you like me, lobster. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Movie's slow. Anyway, slow as hell. Okay, so I love this set of scenes. This gets the ball going. I like all the stuff in the classroom with Roy. I think, like you mentioned, the tension, Brian, we kind of really set the stage for, shit's about to get crazy, as the box rattles. And by the way, I think I I read something earlier on my lunch break from work about this. These kids have school on Christmas Eve anyway, but they're there obviously, and so I love that we build to the box shakes and you're like, oh, what's that going to be, and he kind of baits him in, and then Billy walks in on it and gets into the battle with one. Like I love the look of these gremlins, by the way. And I do think, like I mentioned in the opening set of scenes, they hold up over time to me. Now, in a little bit more of a daylighty vibe or like a room light vibe, they're not awesome, but they're really good when they're dark. And so we're about to get a lot of that. And by the way, you mentioned it. Lynn motherfucking Peltzer. She steals the show in these set of scenes. She's a badass, man. First of all, shitty dad, not there at some fair trying to sell some crappy invention he sucks at making. Whatever. He's off doing crappy salesman shenanigans. And she's having to fend off all these gremlin demon alien things. And she's awesome. This has some of the best kills, obviously. You mentioned the blender kill. The blender kill is great. I love the microwave kill. I think it's very creative. It's a lot of fun. The effects look good inside of it. When she basically just stabs one, you don't necessarily see it, but I think it looks good. He kind of like flings off to the side. I think that's really good. And I love that she uses like what is essentially a TV table, those things you used to eat on around the couch and shit. She basically uses like an 80s version of the TV table to fend off the dishes being thrown at her. I think that's creative. Like, I just love all that. I think it's a really fun, good set of scenes for this to kind of turn it up a notch. I think it's really good. And I like that we are keeping Mogwai like separate from these gremlins. Like, it gives us one of these creatures to root for. Again, I like that they have personalities. I think that makes it fun. I think that's interesting. But something Nico touched on, I think, is a very good point. Is okay, they have this personality, but what are they? What is their deal? Like, we don't. They're just things that laugh and they kind of talk, but not really. They kind of know what our culture is, but not really. Like, it's a very odd thing. And I think that, making them evil, but also making them kind of fun is an interesting way to do it. I don't know if I love that direction a ton. I would have liked it to be just a little bit darker. But I like the character of Stripe because who doesn't love a cool ass looking mohawk thing on a gremlin? It's badass, man. It's badass. And so by the way, this is where you start to feel the runtime a little bit to me, because he jumps out the window and I looked at I paused it on my Roku. I'm not going to say how I watched this film, but it was very free. But I paused it on my Roku and it said I still had 53 minutes left. I said, 53 minutes left? Holy shit. But now I knew what had come. Like, I knew what's to come, but also like, man, there's 53 minutes left. And so I like that the character of Stripe is smart, at least compared to these other idiots that are just kind of binge drinking and smoking here in a little bit. He's kind of smart. He realizes I got to keep this thing going, and that's what gets us into the next set of scenes. But to me, this is the strongest set of scenes. I think there's good kills, there's good suspense, there's just enough comedy, and I think it all works really well. So kudos on this set of scenes. To me, from here, the movie takes a little bit of a dip. And I know I said I liked it more. I just prefer the more horror elements. This is a set of scenes that kind of give us those horror elements, because after this we get a little bit too hokey, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, the mom in the kitchen scene is probably my favorite. Billy
Again,
takes
who
Lynn to
fence who fence people off with a TV table? It's badass. Like it's a fucking like it's a fucking shield from the movie 300. It's badass.
Billy takes Lynn to the doctor's house and he leaves her and goes back to his house. He hears Gizmo and finds him in the laundry chute. Billy follows tracks in the snow into the YMCA. He unlocks the door and goes inside. The fire alarm goes off and Stripe jumps out at them. Stripe jumps into the pool and it begins to boil and turn green with light. Billy runs out of the YMCA and makes it to the sheriff's station, and heard the police are not believing him. He warns them within hours his town will be a disaster area. He now tells them the story how he got the Mogwai. We now see that Stripe is leading the army of gremlins, and that's probably the only effect in the movie that I didn't think looked great. Stripe leading them, but the rest of them look pretty damn good. We're in the Futterman house now, and the TV signal begins to mess up. He blames the brand, but it's the gremlins on the roof destroying the antenna. Murray goes outside and sees the antenna all bent up. He hears chattering, and the plow bursts out of the garage and drives toward him. He runs back inside as they plow through his house, and he screams, "There's a real gremlin in my cab," as they get run into. A man tries to put some mail in the mail collection box, but is thrown back out. Another man reaches in and is grabbed by a gremlin. The gremlins also tamper with the wiring to the streetlights, causing a wreck. He now tells them how it creates when it comes into contact with water. Sheriff gets a call about a snowplow and a freak accident at the Futtermans. They tell Billy to go home and they head out. The gremlins make it to the Deagle residence. Miss Deagle takes her stair chair downstairs and gets her kitty something to eat. She hears carolers outside and opens the door to see it's all gremlins singing. She freaks out and runs inside as another gremlin tampers with her electric chair. She takes her chair upstairs, but it's super fast and it launches out the window upstairs. She flies out the window and onto the ground outside, killing her. The cops now see a guy dressed as Santa, covered in gremlins, and do nothing to help. And I wrote, they're even worse than the Haddonfield cops. They have no clue what the gremlins are.
I wrote
They
the
Fuck you,
same
Nico.
exact thing.
Fuck you, Nico and Brian.
I said that the police makes the department Haddonfield police look like the damn Navy SEALs. They're so bad.
Yeah, Green Beret.
Well, it's fucking junkie town, of course. Golly, there's a cop that's drunk on the job. These cops suck ass. I'd rather have Dewey on the investigation.
Don't get emotional, Mike. Don't get emotional.
Just saying.
Let me finish, then you can get emotional, Mike.
Sorry.
They drive away and see the chaos. Pete is shooting at them with a slingshot. Sheriff goes to hit the brake but can't stop because the brake lines were cut and they flip the car over. All right, go ahead, Brian.
I know this was in the last set of scenes, but I also wanted to point out like how awesome that shot was of the Christmas tree and then those red glowing eyes in that last set of scenes with the mom. I thought that was a great shot. But in this set of scenes, Gizmo, the backpack, come on. I mean, that's definitely E.T., right? But I think that definitely works on a different level, another level as well, because it kind of gives you a real world way to get the Gizmo doll like around without having to do some stop motion or some other cheesy looking effect that would have, wouldn't have stood up. Um, each one of these animatronic gremlins were like $30,000 to $40,000 a piece, allegedly. And Zach Galligan was on record to saying he remembered that they would actually check everyone's trunks of their cars to make sure that nobody stole any on the set every single day. That's crazy. But like I hinted at earlier, Gizmo and Stripe in the script were the same gremlin. Like Gizmo apparently grew up to be, Stripe until of course marketing genius Spielberg came in and said no, that he wanted Gizmo separate and shit that they'll make, and he wanted Gizmo to be the hero because they'll make more money on toys. I mean you can't say what you want about Spielberg, but he's an absolute marketing
It's like
genius.
not ever making John Cena a bad guy. Why would you do that? He sells like a billion fucking shirts.
Yeah, it's and look again, like you touched on it because I wrote it down the same thing. Like this movie's definitely too long, and it takes way too long to get here. And once it does get here, it's stretched a little too much. But no matter how you're feeling, that I think that when Stripe like scratches Billy and then like, first off, you're like, wow, what a dickhead. But because he just walked over there and just scratched him and like walked off and then jumps in the pool. I mean, no matter how you're feeling, I think that everybody's eyes kind of get wide at that
It's an
point
awesome scene.
because you
Yeah,
know, like,
it's awesome.
holy shit, like we've got a problem now,
And the
and it's
effects are awesome.
yeah, and it's definitely the movie to this point's giving you the knowledge to now know that the stakes that this is like presenting to you. So even though it took a well, damn, it took a long time to get there, so it better get its point across. But it definitely does. You feel the effect of Stripe jumping in that pool right there. And I know I'm not the only one who thinks of friend of the show Trey Rowland, who joined us on the Thing episode. Don't go out there.com. Every time that I see any of the gremlins like laughing in this set of scenes, because he uses that so much on Twitter. We've got to get Trey Rowland back on the show. Shout out, friend of the show, Trey Rowland. But and Murray, my man Dick Miller, you brought it up earlier, Mike, Little Shop of Horrors, the Terminator, just acting legend. But this is how he goes out? Like, really? With this Austin Powers steamroller scene, basically, where he's like, no, wait a minute,
Oh, it's
no.
awful.
I
It's
just,
so fucking terrible.
spoiler alert, that's my least favorite kill. If he even really killed him, I'm not sure if even you can count that as a kill, because I know somebody calls the police later from their house, but I don't, so who knows if it's really, I'm counting it though. I'm counting that he's dead. Um, but that's, like I said, I wrote down about the Haddonfield police as well. But so to me, like, they're so bad they deserve to crash. But it did make me laugh. The scene where they're walking out and the deputy says, "Why do you get to drive?" He goes, "I'm the sheriff, asshole." I don't know, that made me laugh the way that he delivered that. And you brought up Polly Holiday earlier. But to me, like, in this set of scenes, I think she does a really great. Well, actually, in all of it, she does a really great job acting. And I think she makes you hate her character. But in this set of scenes, in this death set of scenes, she really does a really good job of genuinely being scared and having that come across. Even though her death was comedic, really. But I think she does a good job portraying that. But that's all I had.
Yeah. So, uh, first of all, I just love that. Again, I like this. The more scenes the dad isn't in, the better. I'm sorry, but you get the nice like mother son kind of like her, him helping her and taking her away from all this, even though she was a badass. I'm glad he got her to safety, but I like that they went with a more now. It gets a little hokey, but at least they're going with some kills because again, it's supposed to be a comedy, horror comedy, whatever. And this set of scenes has some kills at least. You mentioned it. My man Murray. Okay, so he's I don't necessarily like the character of Murray because he's very 80s TV dad where he's grumpy and he watches the TV and he's got this whole plot throughout where he doesn't like anything foreign made. He sure does have a lot of foreign made shit for not liking stuff that's foreign made. So I always found that to be kind of funny, at least. He's a dick to his wife. That's funny because his name is Dick in real life. But anyway, his death is terrible. It's awful. It is almost played like a Thanksgiving death to me. It's really, really bad. Maybe it's the acting. I don't know. Now, I'll say this. I get a laugh out of the Gremlins driving that fucking snowplow. I think that's kind of funny. Like they're laughing and having a good time. Like, I think it's funny, but it's very like just hokey, over the top, not good. And if that's what it was supposed to do, then it delivered. But I didn't care for it. You mentioned the pool scene, and I want to go back a little bit here. I skipped over it. The effects in that shot are awesome. The way the pool looks, the way it's lit, how green it is, and the bubbles coming up and everything. I think and the smoke coming out, like really cool shot, really cool effects. I think it works really well. Again, you mentioned I'm feeling the runtime here because I love as much as I love that shot. That would have been awesome about 20 minutes ago to get that shot. But it still think it holds up really, really well. Obviously, which I already mentioned, Polly Holiday, Miss Deagle. First of all, she's the only character in this movie that I'm like, if you die, that would be great. Because she almost like Cruella DeVille's her ass with how she wants to put the dog in the in the fucking washing machine or the dryer or whatever. Like, just terrible. And she makes you hate her character, which I will commend her for. So when she dies, while it's played for some kiki ha-has, I think it works really well. But I like that they have a little more horror aspects in here, some kills. They have some fucking Halloween 5 cops, bastards. Might as well be eating banh mi sandwiches and fucking and have clown music when you walk up because they're fucking terrible. The one cop's drunk. Now, I will say this. This movie plays into the bumbling cop trope, which I don't really love in horror anymore. I'm over it. Like, I'm over bad horror movie cops. This kind of fits that narrative to me. They're just like, I don't believe you, son. Go back to bed or whatever the fuck. Like, it's very like, is anybody ever going to believe anyone in any fucking horror movie ever? No boyfriend ever believes their girlfriend, and no cop ever believes anybody. Like, can we just like maybe try to not do that going forward in horror movies? I know we're not going to because Halloween Ends is going to come out, and Haddonfield PD fucking sucks no matter what timeline we're on. That's right, I said it. Looking at you, Coach Yotes. Anyway,
Hey, Brad Dorff would never.
hey, my man Brad motherfucking Dorff, he had to. I'll commend him on being a good cop, but he should have shot Loomis in the head, that son of a bitch. Anyway, but yeah, that's all I have. I think this is not. Again, we're about to get into the part of the movie that just like it's overdone. It's way too much. We're not quite there yet, but this set of scenes and the set of scenes before are the chunk of the movie that I like the most. From here, we kind of start to take a little bit of a downward turn because it's just too much. It's 40-ish minutes of kind of, all right, are we ever going to wrap this thing up or what? That's kind of how I feel in the last few sets of scenes.
All right, Billy gets his car to crank and takes off with Gizmo. He listens to the radio as Pete calls in about the gremlins. The radio man is attacked by gremlins now. Randall is at a gas station now, and he notices the attendant is a smoker. He now tries to sell him his smokeless ashtray, which that could have been cut. We're at Dory's Tavern now, and Kate is trying to bartend for the gremlins. It's chaos as they drink, eat, make a mess, play on the ceiling fans. One even flashes her. Stripe leads the card table and shoots one of the other gremlins. More gremlin action as they laugh and dance. Kate notices they like back away when she puts like a match towards them. She grabs the camera and starts to flash the light at them. She almost makes it to the door and the camera stops working. Billy drives up and honks for her. They get back in the car and he turns the car off for some reason, and now it won't crank. They have to make a run for it. The whole town is being attacked by gremlins. Billy and Kate make it inside the bank, and notice it's a wreck too. He tells Kate they're gremlins. She says she has another reason to hate Christmas. She now tells him how her dad died falling down the chimney dressed as Santa and broke his neck. That's how she found out there was no Santa. Billy and Kate go back outside and see the whole town is quiet now and cars are on fire. Kate asks where they all went. It's almost light, so they're probably all together. Gizmo chatters, and Billy and Kate go inside the movie theater. Some of them are destroying the film, some are in the seats. They begin to watch Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. They now sing along Hi Ho and Off to Work We Go. He asks Kate where's the boiler room. Billy opens a valve and leaks gas into the air. He now lights some paper, I believe, on fire to, explode the building. The gremlins see them behind the screen and chase after them. They make it outside, finally get them trapped in the building. They run off and patiently wait for the building to explode. The gremlins burn to death. They now see Stripe in the department store. They chase after as Billy breaks the window in so they can get inside. If he gets to water, it'll start all over again. He tells Kate to try and find a light switch as they share a kiss. And the next little bit is the ending. Go ahead, Brian.
So this is probably the most well-known, well-referenced, or most referenced set of scenes in this movie. But hot take, it's my least favorite set of scenes. The part at the bar, come on. Like, Kate serving the gremlins, I hated it. But I will give them more props for Flasher Gremlin. Sidebar, flashing is a trend that I'm glad isn't around much anymore. I have to say that I love 80s movies. I love 80s nostalgia, but definitely glad I missed the whole flasher trend. I mean, just, oh, hey, fine gentleman in a khaki trench coat. He must be cold. Boom, dick. Awful. Absolutely awful.
Boom,
But
take awful
but
as a T-shirt, by the way.
but it's definitely funny in this little set of scenes. But these shots of all the gremlins doing all this shit, I don't think they needed to be in this movie. If you're gonna have these gremlins on screen, have them killing town folk, not dancing all over the place. I mean, we get to spend 10 fucking minutes in this bar scene with them just acting like idiots, and Kate serving them like they're fucking people. I mean, get the fuck out of here. Cut all of this shit here. Cut it all. Like this should literally be 3 to 5 second scene if you're going to show this, not 10 minutes. And Billy, you dumb ass. Like you just saw Kate running out of the bar. Why did you turn your car off? If you have a car that you worry about not starting, why are we turning it off? Anyway, ridiculous. But listen, like this, I touched on it a little bit earlier. This famous Kate speech. I told you I like it. I like her character. I just think that this is a really weird place to put it in the script. I mean, it's not like in a movie where you're held up for a while, like in some abandoned building, and like you can like the characters can sit down and like relax for just a second from all the chaos, and you kind of share this moment. No, it's out of nowhere, and it kind of seems forced as hell. Like they're just barely closing the door. Oh shit, close the door. By the way, fuck Christmas. My father got stuck in the chimney like an idiot and I burned him with the fireplace. Like it's just the studio, it's like the studio, or I mean, I know the studio wanted it cut, but Joe apparently really wanted it in and Spielberg just let him leave it in. And again, fine speech. I just think the timing was weird for me. And I mean, also Billy and Kate, like they walk out after, I don't know, it just does not seem that long, but the whole town's like abandoned. Like, how long were they in there? And the original script had scenes like where the gremlins attacked a McDonald's, eating the customers instead of burgers. Like that's the kind of shit that I'm talking about. I would have liked to have seen that and seen some more people killed instead of the bullshit at Dory's and then the movie theater scene. I mean, like I said, it's an iconic visual, with the whole movie theater. Like for this movie, that's a very well known scene, and and all that. But again, I don't think it had any business being that long. Um, and lastly, like this, so this set of scenes to me knocks the movie down for me personally, a whole couple of points, and it annoys me. But the explosion, apparently, when Phoebe asked about the movie, the I'm talking about the movie theater explosion, but apparently when Phoebe asked the explosives guy how big the explosion would be, he said, "Well, we've packed it pretty good." She's quoted as saying, "Well, what the hell does that mean?" She said, like, the actual event was so deafening, the heat was so intense, she thought it had singed her eyebrows. Like it blew the doors off the theater, like you could see in the movie, obviously in the film, but it apparently shattered windows on a building at Universal a mile away. It was that big. Anyway, go ahead, man.
Yeah, this is also my least favorite set of scenes in this film. There's not a whole lot that I actually like about this outside of a few laughs that I get from the bar scene because there's some funny stuff. But when you put it in the context of the film, Brian, which you mentioned, it doesn't fit. It feels so out of place. Like I don't really know why it's there. And and Dustin's thoughts, which I'm going to read off later, he kind of mentions just wanting to film their cool invention that they kind of made. And I understand that. But, like you mentioned, Brian, there's better ways to do that.
Yeah.
There's significant. And again, this is a horror comedy. It's not supposed to be played super serious. So, like, okay, fine. But that doesn't mean I have to like it. And I don't like this scene at the bar. Like, the only redeeming thing here is Kate being awesome, thinking on her feet. It took her a long time. First of all, would have never served these fuckers. But now that you've also dug that hole, which by the way, that's her dumb decision that I referenced earlier. But she thinks on her feet. She remembers the flash. Kind of bothers them. Doesn't like the picture taken. All that stuff. I like that. But like everything else is just so over the top. The flashing, the 5 cigarettes in the mouth, all the drinking beer, falling off bar stools. Like it's a lot, man. They're like me and my buddies on a weekend alone, guys trip, which again, what are these things? How do they even know to emulate this stuff? Like, I think all that gets kind of lost there. Also, you get the speech from Kate about her, dad and why she doesn't like Christmas. And I think that's supposed to be a serious monologue, but I got to be honest, to tie that into why she doesn't believe, why she found out that there was no Santa. By the way, kids, if you're listening, one, stop, because I've said a lot of F words on this episode. And two, there is a Santa. Don't listen to Kate. Santa's super real. And if you listen to this show, he's going to bring lumps of coal for you. So maybe turn this off and tell your mom that you're very sorry, or your dad or whoever. But so it's played super serious, but I mean, I just don't think it works. Like I mean, I'm glad they're giving her character some depth, but like the fact that he falls and breaks his neck, and that's how like Santa broke his neck. Like it's just, I don't know. It's played serious, and I couldn't help but laugh because of the way it was delivered, worded, whatever. I wasn't a fan. I really hate. I'll say hate this scene at the movie theater. One, how much did Spielberg pay to get the rights to air Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs? Because Disney does not let their.
You're correct, but I think it's public domain at that point. It's been like it came out so long ago. I think
that's not in their vault.
I'm not sure, honestly, to be honest with you. So I don't know.
Well, the only reason I say that is because I know they. If you know the story behind Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and what it took to get them and the Looney Tunes on screen together.
Yeah,
that was a big enough hassle. Much less put Snow White and Seven Dwarfs in the movie with gremlins and that drink beer and smoke cigarettes and stuff. That kind of surprised me. Like I forgot that was in here.
Well, you're right. Anyway, even if it is domain now, it sure as hell wasn't in 1984. So I'm not real sure how they did that.
Right. So yeah. So I thought that was kind of fun. I was like, oh man, I bet Spielberg. Although he is Steven Spielberg, even in 1984, so maybe they're like, all right, Steven, you go ahead. This movie's going to make a lot of money. No big deal. So I hate this movie theater scene, man. It goes on forever. How in the world did she even know where the boiler room was? Like, there's just a lot that I don't like. It's too much of the laughing, joking Gremlins for me personally. And I just don't think it works well. Now, I like that they got them all in there and they kind of killed a bunch of them off at once. That's fine. But it just, I don't know. It doesn't hit with me, man. And I think this set of scenes in particular drags the movie down a pretty good chunk, man, because I don't hate the movie. I'm not in love with it up to this point, but I definitely don't hate it. But this set of scenes, it drags. And I do mean drags at that bar scene. Like, I'm like, can we move this along? This is taking forever. And so that's all I have to say about the set of scenes. It sucks because the two sets of scenes before they're pretty decent. And then we get to this, and I just think it kind of kicks me in the balls, and I didn't want to be kicked.
All right, I'm just going to make two comments before I go on to the last little bit. On a funny note, I saw on CinemaSins about this movie where it said, "Stupidity killed your dad, not Christmas, Kate." I thought that was hilarious. And the second thing, I agree with both of y'all. Like, I really don't need, I like Kate's character, but I don't need this whole speech about the seasonal, like, Christmas depression stuff. Like, what kind of movie are you trying to make? You trying to make a horror comedy, but you're trying to bring in, like, this big point about horror, like depression, like people are sad during Christmas. And then like Bryan said, like, you put it right here for her to tell the story. Like, have her tell the story when she, like, before she accepts the date. Like, why do you have to wait till now? That's just my opinion, though. All right, here's the last little bit. Billy grabs a baseball bat and looks for Stripe. He bashes a TV in when a gremlin appears on it. Kate finds some switches and tries to find the lights. Billy keeps wandering the store. Kate turns the water to the fountain on. Stripe now throws things at Billy, including saw blades. Stripe is on a tricycle and Billy chases after him. Gizmo is gone now. Billy is hit in the back with a tennis ball launched to him, and Stripe throws more stuff at him. He now shoots Billy in the arm with a crossbow. Billy blocks a second shot with a stereo. Billy getting his ass whooped, then Stripe charges him with the weakest chainsaw ever as he fights it off with a wooden bat.
Yes, I said the same thing.
Gizmo drives a Barbie car, and Kate finally gets the store lights turned on. Stripe is weakened and drug away by the chainsaw until it unplugs. Stripe runs to the fountain as he grabs a gun. Barney jumps out the car, and goes into the department store. Billy makes it to the gardening section and sees Stripe by the fountain. Stripe shoots at him, and he climbs to the top of the fountain. He puts his finger in the water. Gizmo grabs the cable on the wall, opening the roof up, and sunlight hits Stripe, killing him. What the hell is that? Rand asks him. Billy grabs Gizmo, and we get a jump scare from Stripe's skeleton as it leaps out of the fountain. They walk out of the store. Back to Billy's house, and they watch the news, who blame it on mass hysteria in the town. They check Gizmo's temperature, and the old Chinese man is there. He gives the money back and takes Gizmo. They load Gizmo back up in the box, and he scolds him for letting all this happen. He tells Rand he is not ready. Gizmo tells Billy bye, and the man tells Billy someday he may be ready. Rand tells the man he's truly sorry. Rand offers a smokeless ashtray as he leaves. Narration at the end as we see the old man walking down the street. And then I just wrote down the final quote. There just might be a gremlin in the house, like if you hear noises and all that. All right, Brian, what'd you think of the ending?
I'm going to be honest with you. I was ready for it to be over. I mean, and am I wrong for saying that the original cut for was like, I think it was something like 2 hours and 45 minutes or something. Jesus Christ. I mean, like they cut like an hour out of it and they still didn't cut enough to me. But anyway, the scene in the department store where Stripe attacks Billy with that chainsaw was not in the script, and it was apparently added by Joe Dante and Zach Gilligan as Galligan as an homage to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'm like, okay, but this is exactly what I wrote down. Did anyone notice he was blocking a chainsaw with a wooden fucking bat? I mean, like, I'm glad you said that because I was like, what the fuck? But I am glad that they took it seriously as far as the fight goes between the two. Like it reminded me a lot, and I'm going to lose you guys here, but it reminded me a lot of the Yoda in Star Wars, like the fight with Count Dooku and clones. Like it could have been cheesy, I think, and on paper it probably is cheesy, but I think that they did it fairly well, and I'm not saying that this fight is that good, like from like Attack of the Clones good, but it's not cheesy, and I feel like it could have been, is what I guess I'm getting at here. But I hate that they relegated Kate to the sidelines here, and I kind of touched on that earlier. But this is where I was really kind of like, I wish that they wouldn't have like maybe killed them all in the movie theater and had her outside like fighting them off, maybe with Gizmo while Stripe was inside. Maybe have it like Stripe dies, all of his spawn die off or something. Like I don't know. It's just I don't, and I'm sure everybody, by the way, caught that ET reference with Spike poking his head through the stuffed animals too. But again, like I just feel like Kate kind of got the shaft here, and I feel like that they, going back to what you were talking about a second ago, I feel like that they shoehorned a lot of her stuff in. And I think that that's interesting character development that should have been explored a little bit more, while fucking Gremlins in the bar should have been cut. No, just my opinion. One last thing and I'll get out of here. At the end, Gizmo pulls a window blind, that exposes Stripe to the sunlight. Originally, in the original script, there were 2 window blinds, and Gizmo pulls the first one, and then Billy pulls the second one. That scene was edited because Spielberg believed that Gizmo was a hero and not Billy, and so Gizmo should be the one responsible for the demise of Stripe. Personally, and Mike's going to hate this, but I wish Randy Peltzer or Kate would have been the ones to save the day. Like, give old Randy a win here, man. Like, instead, he walks in and is like, huh, that sucks. Want my scarf? Like, that was it. Like, what's the point of him being in that last scene? I don't know. I do like the ending and the lesson about the very ending after this. I like that they kind of give you a little bit of a lesson about society, not knowing what to do with nature's gift. But
right.
Anyway, that's all I had on this mixed bag.
Yeah. I feel like it kind of drug out, man. I agree with you. By this point, I'm just kind of ready to get to the end. And again, I like how they end it. Like, that's fine. I do. it is really hilarious to me that he's fighting a chainsaw off with a piece of wood. It makes me laugh every time. First of all, Randy Peltzer can suck it from the back. What are we talking about here? He gets no redemptive arc. I don't want to hear that. Come on, Bryan. I agree with you about Kate, though. Man, she had the most fleshed out character of this whole film, and they kind of don't use her here the way they should have, and I I hate that. I all I really had on this set of scenes is that obviously they're trying to teach a little bit of a lesson, which you touched on about how we as a society would handle it. You have Mr. Wing come back. I think that was kind of fun. I forgot, again, been about 10-15 years. I forgot that happens. He's kind of you know one of the older wise men, and he kind of says, hey, I love how he calls him, because it's not like Randy Peltzer stole Mogwai, but he also bought it underhanded from the kid, and he's like, "This is the man I bought. I bought him from." But he's like, "Bought is a very." I don't remember what he says the line. If you have it, Bryan, but he kind of's like, "Nah, I don't think you bought this from me, bro. I'm pretty sure you kind of stole this."
Yeah, and plus there was a scene that was cut too, apparently, of the kid getting like super. I mean, I don't know, the way that it was described was, let's just say he got in a lot of shit for doing that and punished for it, basically, which I think like sheds a whole new light on the old man there.
Yeah, and I'm kind of glad they didn't go that direction. I like
Me
this
too.
guy.
Me too.
I think I want to keep him the way he is. Lastly, I'll just say that I like the relationship between Mogwai and Billy. I love that he's like, bye, Billy, or, whatever he says. He kind of, again, I don't speak Gremlin, so I don't really know what they actually says, but I think it's really adorable and sweet. Fun line from my girl Lynn. I bet he'd like some chicken noodle soup. Come on, man. Like, I know you're taking the temperature and stuff, but that, I don't know, that line cracked me up a lot. But yeah, again, at this point, I'm just kind of wanting it to be over. I feel like there's a good portion of this movie that you could trim just a little bit, even though they trimmed an hour, like you said, apparently. Good Lord. I would not want to see the 2 hour and 40-minute version of this film. But if you just trim a little bit more, get it to an hour and a half, maybe hour and 25, I think you have a really good compact film that I think works. And you just, even here at the end, I would have trimmed some of that fat.
Alrighty. Any more final thoughts before we jump into some fan questions on social media?
No, let's do it.
I'll tell you one more thing that annoyed me in this movie. At the very beginning, like they just break the rules. Like as soon as little Gizmo gets to the house, it's like, can we go one full day without flashing this kid or flashing Gizmo or pouring water all over him? It's like, good night. All right, we'll do Facebook first. Michelle Mirza, one of our biggest fans, said this is a great choice. So Bryan, she's a big fan. Let's see, Hunter Nelson. It's such a fun movie to watch. I'm sure this will be another great episode. I love that each gremlin has its own personality. Hunter, we don't make any bad episodes, my man. You know this. Shan says she loves this movie. It was out. It was the first Christmas movie my daughter and I watched this year. This is a fun way you can start horror with your kids without it being somewhat over the top, scary, or gory. I still laugh throughout it. I agree with that. This would be a good one to introduce some kids to. Sean Irwin said this movie is so much fun. Can't wait to listen. And Maddie Talley, Bright So, he said, the most horrifying aspect of this movie is the story the girl tells about her dad playing Santa.
Right? That's true. That's very true.
JMan5765 on Instagram said this movie was a yearly watch for me growing up. He has a question for us. Do you guys think a modern remake would work? I'd personally love to see it.
Nah. I mean, unless you just went
I don't-
straight horror with it, and I think that you'd get too many people that have the nostalgia for this one just to hate
Yeah.
it. I don't think it'll work.
I would love it, but I don't think it'd be loved by people that have that
Just leave it in 84.
Yeah.
Well, now that we said that, in 2023 they're going to have a Gremlins remake coming.
Yeah, no, I know. It's supposed to, Bryan, I wouldn't fear it too much. I think it's going to tread lightly. It's not going to be super duper dark.
Interesting.
All right, and Kevin Potoff on Instagram said, about time you guys nailed down a good one. No stupid witches floating at the end of this gym. Thanks, man. I'm glad you like the witch, brother.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right, y'all ready to jump into fun facts? I only have one.
Sure, yeah. I only have one as well.
Okay, I don't think we said this tonight, but in Cantonese, Mogwai means devil, demon, or gremlin.
Hmm.
That's the only one I got.
The only one I have is Mr. Hansen, the science teacher, was actually originally killed by dozens of hypodermic needles to the face. I mean, that had a lot of Nightmare on Elm Street 3 vibes. So I wish they would have gone that way. And my other one has to do with the budget, so I have to go after you, Mike.
Okay, so before I get to the budget, let's talk about the year of 1984.
Let's do it.
Not only is it a great year for horror, and it
Fantastic.
is a great year for horror, it's a great year for film.
Yeah.
All right, but let's just kind of start with horror. Obviously, you have Gremlins right here, but you've got A Nightmare on Elm Street, the original. You've got Children of the Corn. Nico, hold comments till the end. You've got Silent Night, Deadly Night, which we mentioned on this show.
Right.
You've got Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter, which is one that we all love on this show. You've got Ghostbusters, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Mm-hmm.
You've got The Terminator, the original Frankenweenie.
Oh, wow.
And so on and so on and so on. Blood Theater, which is a guilty pleasure of mine. Firestarter with young Drew Barrymore comes out in 1984. I also like that movie. So there's a lot of awesome in 1984 when it comes to horror. Man, what a fun year. So yeah, I thought we should at least mention, man, this came out in just a loaded, packed year for this genre. Opening weekend, this movie made $12,511,634. That's eight. So that's 8 point. That's only 8.4% of the total gross. The budget itself was $11 million, which that's a little bit lower than I expected. But the total box office, by the way, was $212.9 million. On an $11 million budget, which you mentioned, kind of got in their way, which is why the Gremlins are shot the way they are.
Yeah. Well, it was even supposed to be lower budget than that, but the production costs and everything, all these issues kind of skyrocketed. Just to add on to what you said, the film debuted at number 2 at the box office, coming only $1 million short of the top spot because it was released on the same day as greatest movie of all time, Ghostbusters.
That's all I was going to say. Release date, same as Ghostbusters. Also, fun fact that no one else had, so I'm going to say it because he's one of my favorite authors when I was a kid. The Gremlins was wrote by world-renowned author Ronald Dahl, James and Jai Peach, BFG, all those books. He wrote the original kind of not screenplay, obviously, but the template for what the characters would be. He wrote that, and it was a Walt Disney book, by the way. So that's also fun. Maybe that's why they got Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
While you were saying that, peek behind the curtain, I Googled that, and I've been looking at it for 20 minutes. I can't find any reason why anything besides the fact that they did, it looks like they paid for the rights to do it, and even had the gremlin with the Mickey Mouse ears, which I didn't notice until I Googled it either. But I don't know. I didn't understand it.
All righty. Y'all ready to jump into our favorite kill, least favorite kill in the rating?
Sure.
1 second. It says that the story is owned by Disney. The movie is owned by Spielberg. So that's the line of separation there.
Really? Okay.
Yep.
Nice. Mike, you want to read Dustin's rating and all that first, and I'll go after him. Dustin couldn't make it tonight. He's having a little sinus throat kind of thing going on, I guess.
We thought it was COVID. It's luckily not COVID, but he will be back next week. Or he will be back he'll be back next week for my pick, which we're going to touch on here at the end. Okay. So this is what Dustin says. This movie is a classic. There's no doubt about it. I hadn't seen the movie in 20 plus years, and I understand why. It's not bad at all. But you could tell Spielberg and crew were proud of their animatronics and wanted to get as much screen time for them as possible. At 30 to 40,000 per, I don't blame them. The bar scene and movie theater scene go on entirely too long. However, there are a lot of good things in this movie. It has charm, a lot of charm. The characters you're supposed to like are likable. The one rich lady is I'll see you next Tuesday. Try to clean up my act here. But it did a great job there. it has a very 80s feel, which is nice for nostalgia. I love how you can feel a change in atmosphere once the Gremlins turn bad. I agree with Dustin 100% there. There is a big change, and I like that change. They do a great job of shooting it like a horror movie from then forward. When the mom is in the kitchen and the camera pans from her face and zooms out, it feels like a horror movie, where the first part of the movie had a family comedy feel similar to Harry and the Hendersons. Also a great film. The plot is completely and utterly ridiculous. I mean, it's after midnight somewhere always. Um,
Yeah.
should have said after dark or something, but it's forgivable because Gizmo is so cute and lovable. Overall, it's one of those movies everyone should watch, but if I could commission a remake, it would be about 85 minutes tops. Side note, the first rough cut was apparently 2 hours and 40 minutes long. No thanks. I'd give it a 6.75.
Charm was a good word to use. So
That's yes.
that's perfect. That's
It
perfect.
has a lot of charm. Absolutely.
All right, I'll go. Bryan, I didn't tell you this during the
Oh no.
review, but me and you have the same favorite kill and least favorite kill.
Oh.
Favorite kill is the gremlin in the blender. I almost chose the microwave one, but man, how many times you ever seen a blender kill? That was awesome.
Exactly.
Least favorite kill, I chose Mr. Futterman and his wife off screen. I almost chose the sheriff and the other deputy when they flipped their car. Just going to assume they died, but I went with Futterman and his wife. I just wrote a little summary. Hadn't seen the movie in years, and just being honest, it didn't do much for me. I think it's a fine movie for its time, but it just didn't interest me that much. It's a Christmas horror comedy, but it's not really scary or funny. The Gremlins are cool at first, then it seems like they just grew enamored with it and drug the movie out too long, which got monotonous to me, like the bar scene, theater scene. The acting is, pretty good. It's a good story, but it's not executed as good as it should have been. With that said, I gave it a 5.25.
Okay. All right. I'll go ahead and go. My favorite kill was the blender kill. I don't think that's any secret. I could have a lot of nominations for my least favorite kill, honestly, but it's my man Dick and the snowplow. Dick got plowed. Sorry, I had to play off Dustin's. His name's not Dick in the movie, so it doesn't quite work. But come on, Murray got plowed. All right. Anyway,
we've done worse with less. So
yes, we have. If you go listen to our Signs episode, that lets you know everything you need to know. But yeah, that's my least favorite kill for sure. This movie, like Dustin said, has a lot of charm. I think it does make me want to watch it again when I'm not doing it for this show, and I may do that in the next couple weeks because it is Christmas time and all that. I don't think it's one of my immediate go-tos. Going forward, it's not going to be one of those ones I turn on. It's not the Santa Claus. It's not Elf. It's not Christmas Vacation or any of those. But I do think it's something I can maybe work into the rotation because I don't hate it. It's just long. It drags, and that's unfortunate because the concept is really fun, creative, unique. And I just don't have enough backstory with what these creatures are. I think the movie suffers from that. I think the movie suffers from the chunk towards the end at the bar and the movie theater. All that being said, I gave this a 6.5.
Okay. I already said my favorite kill and my least favorite kill. This is going to be a weird thing to say, but I think that everybody will understand this. This to me is a good background movie. Like, if you're, especially for Christmas, because when you're decorating the Christmas tree, or when you're decorating Christmas, or whether you're just hanging out having a Christmas party or whatever, Santa Claus you brought up is a great one for the background. Grinch 2000, great one for the background, in my opinion. Christmas Vacation, probably my favorite Christmas movie. And this one, to me, is a great background movie. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but to me, I think that's a good point for that. But, like I said, I like the movie. It's way too long. We've said that 50,000 times. I don't want to hammer that point home anymore, but I just did anyway. I think that it takes a way too long to get to that third act. And then I think the third act is way too long. And to me, again, nostalgia plays the biggest part of this to me. Dustin used the perfect word, and charm. If you're trying to, I was trying to think of something besides nostalgia to say about it, and that's the perfect word. Charm is it. Admittedly, again, that plays a bigger part than the actual movie in there to me, and it gets a 7 from me.
Alrighty.
Okay.
R4 cumulative. You got that, Mike? Or you want me to say it?
No, go ahead.
Okay, our cumulative is a 6.375, and IMDb with 211,114 reviews gave it a 7.3. So we're about almost a full point below IMDb.
Okay.
Any more final thoughts on Gremlins before we announce Mike's pick and shout out our blood donors?
No,
Oh man, that's it.
I'm glad that we finally got to this, and
Yeah,
that
me too.
it's kind of goes along with our little Christmas theme that we have for December, and I'm looking forward to continuing that coming up here in December with a little bonus pick that Mike picked.
Hot take: Christmas Vacation is not that good. All right, go ahead, Mike.
Oh my
Wow.
god.
Wow. I mean, like, this is why I'm the people's champion here. Like, how do you hate on these movies that are just so great? Anyway, go ahead.
Him and Dustin both. I'll
And
never
European
understand.
Vacation is god awful, but go ahead, Mike.
Wait, what's god awful?
European Vacation.
Oh, I mean, it's not great, but the original Vacation and Christmas Vacation are awesome. Anyway,
Wow.
kiss my ass, kiss his ass, kiss your ass.
Kiss your ass. Kiss his ass. Kiss my ass.
Yeah, Nico, kiss my ass. Anyway, yeah. So my pick for next week is another bad film. But we have to complete the series before January, so it was time to finally do it. I wish we were actually reviewing the movie I wanted to do, which is Bryan's prequel that he wrote, but we're not doing that. We're doing Scream 3 instead, which Bryan's prequel would make Scream 3 a hell of a lot better film, because I got news for you guys. It's not very good.
Yeah,
It's embarrassing.
I agree with you, and we've brought this up before about how if the worst movie in your franchise is Scream 3, I mean, you're doing pretty good.
That's still true.
And I agree with that.
Ugh,
But every
I don't know.
time I watch this movie, it gets worse every time. Like
Yeah, and I do. Yeah,
I'm going to talk more about that my prequel script, I think, than I will about the actual movie. By the way, you can find that prequel script on don'tgooutthere.com.
well, here's what I'll say. It's bad, but it's almost makes me more angry than anything else because
Yes.
I like the other three so much.
Well, it makes me hate Krueger, not Freddy Krueger, Aaron Krueger, the guy that wrote this, instead of Kevin Williamson. It makes me dislike the guy, and I don't even know him. And he's written some pretty decent stuff, and and some of his stuff in Scream 4,
Scream 4
like,
is good.
is not
Yeah.
bad. Like, but I cannot stand the problems. Anyway, we'll get into it. Go ahead.
I still stand by if this is the worst movie in your franchise.
Yes.
You're doing okay, and the only reason I say that is because it's not Freddy's Dead. It's not Jason Takes Manhattan or X, depending on your opinion. And it's not Halloween 5's god awful sorry sack of shitness. And it's not any of the Hellraiser films. So
And hey, and I'll say it next week whenever we get into it, but it's almost, I mean, like, it has a decent outline. It's just
it does.
the writing was terrible. It's almost like somebody amazing wrote a great outline for
here
it,
we go.
and then it was just executed wrong. I don't know.
I don't know. Apparently Bryan likes someone's big writing dick. All right, I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right, let's shout out blood donors. Let's move on. All right, our legendary blood donors, Missy Hutchison Wall and Miss Joe Larson. I'm looking forward to doing their film reviews in the next couple months. Our final girl donor, Miss Danny C. Naps. Appreciate her and Joe for donating. Looking forward to that one. Our camp level reoccurring is Clayton J, Nina, Michelle Mirza, Mr. Andrew Ferguson, Carrie Adams, the Horror Movie Crew podcast, and Alex Seligson. Our camp counselor reoccurring are Hunter Nelson, Karen, Shan Petrusevich, Dennis Kennedy, and Edwin Hernandez Gunn. I just want to thank all our blood donors. Really appreciate
Yes.
y'all. Y'all help
Thank
us.
you so much.
I mean,
Yes.
contrary to popular belief, I'll say it this way, doing a good podcast is not free and it's not cheap.
Yep.
I mean, you can make a free one if you want to, but it's not going to sound good. It's not going to be worth listening to, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I just want to thank y'all. Y'all take that burden off of us. Looking forward to our Scream 3 review. And it'll be a good discussion episode because I'll be looking forward to listening to you two and Dustin talk about it. Because after my 2 rewatches for this movie, I don't like this movie at all now. Honestly,
Well, we don't either.
Yeah.
I think this movie's pretty awful, actually. And Gail's damn haircut is so distracting.
Oh, it's bad.
We're going to talk about that too. I want to save my thoughts on that for next week.
Because you deserve so much better. I don't know what the hell's going on with that. But anywho, Gremlins was a fun one. And like Bryan teased, we got another Christmas bonus coming down the road. Looking forward to that review. I won't necessarily say I love that movie, but it was okay. But Merry Christmas, early Christmas. It's past midnight somewhere. Y'all have a good one.
Hey, y'all have a good one, and direct your hate tweets about Christmas Vacation at DGOT Nico on Twitter.
Hey, Christmas Vacation sucks, man. It's okay.
Oh my God.
Hey,
cut this off.
Pal. Yeah. Hey, Bryan, make sure you cut that out. I don't want our listeners knowing that. All right, we'll see you next week.
I'm cutting it out. I'm not cutting out. I want everybody to know the opinion. I want this Sean Irwin opinion out there.
Man out here likes the Babadoo, but doesn't like Christmas Vacation. We'll see you next time.
Will you stop recording?